Hey there, welcome to Contracts and Chaos. My name's Alyssa.
And I'm Brenna, and we're here to tell you that you are not alone in the mayhem of this real estate industry.
We're keeping it real and sharing our stories, strategies, and successes in today's real estate world.
So come join us every Tuesday while we talk contracts and chaos.
They might, so my neighbors
And,
tree
well,
trimmed.
it says,
They may knock on my door to give me a quote, by the way, but we'll get through this really quickly. Hopefully it takes a while. So today we want to talk about FHA appraisals because I feel like they are the big scary demon in the room. Everyone's like, "We're not taking an FHA offer." And I'm like, "Why? What's wrong with your house?"
mhm,
To me, when a listing agent says that, red flag, because I'm like, "What is wrong with the house that
mhm.
you think it won't pass an FHA? What's
Well, and
going
my
on?"
my thing too is when they're like, "Oh, the seller doesn't want to accept FHA." Okay, well, have you talked to them about it? Like, if I write you an
Right.
FHA offer, because what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? Because I think it could go FHA. They're like, "Oh no, the seller
Exactly.
doesn't want to accept." Okay, the seller doesn't want money for their house because that's what they're saying no to at this
Now,
point.
and I will say, my clients just turned one down, but it was FHA versus cash
Mm,
on a house built in the 50s that I know is fine, but the cash offer was also financially better
sure. Well,
and had agreed to no repairs.
in that case, yes. But if
That's
you're
totally
talking
different.
about a listing that's been on the market for 64 days with no offers on the table, and you're like, oh no, we're not looking at FHA.
Right.
Why? You are shooting yourself in the foot and you are eliminating a huge pool of buyers that qualify for FHA financing. It's a
Yep.
great program. I
Yep.
think people
And
should just be a little bit more informed about what it actually is.
yes, I would say let's go over the basics.
Yes,
Let's
of
go over
what
the
they're
basics.
looking for and what those issues can and can't be. Honestly,
Right.
I had one recently that I was like, I think that these two items are going to be flagged, and they weren't. And I was like,
Same.
whoa.
I had one, the garage was like wood paneling outside,
Mhm.
and the whole bottom was rotted out from like previous floodwaters. They didn't say a thing. And I was like, really?
Yeah, I had
Okay.
two carport posts that all of the paint was peeled on, like completely peeling, like could pull it off in ribbons
Right.
peeling, and not a single word.
So crazy.
I know.
So let's go over the basics. So the FHA is not a lender and they're not an inspector. They are the Federal Housing Administration.
That right there is enough
And
information. I think we could cut it off right
right?
there.
And we're
Okay.
done.
The number of people that are like, "Well, who do I contact for the FHA?" And I'm like,
I'm like, no.
the same lady that you're. What do you mean? Your pre-approval is
Right.
FHA. No.
Yes. And their purpose, the FHA backs loans. So they're guaranteeing certain things
Mhm.
within the lending process. I don't understand all the specifics of what that means, but it's a government backed loan.
Yes.
Their purpose in their appraisal is to ensure the home is safe and structurally sound and secure. So it's the three S's: safe, sound, secure. So I always tell my clients it's like the health and safety.
Mhm.
Like we brought up examples: rotten wood, peeling paint. Are the stairs over 2 feet without a railing? They might make you put a railing on, which I've seen FHA railings. It's literally like 3 2x4s nailed up real quick, and they'll count it. They're fine with it.
Yeah. Age of the
So,
roof is a big one. Water
age of the
intrusion in
roof,
this area is a big one.
yes.
Um, they
But here's
want
the
to make
thing,
sure you're buying something that's going to stand the test of some time. You know.
right? And their appraisal, it's not an inspection, but it kind of is.
Mhm.
Like they're looking at the valuation versus the condition. So they're going to give you a price for it, but they're also going to say maybe some things need to be fixed, maybe some don't. I had one, the shed out back that I swear to God was like 75 years old. It was older than the house, I think, had some wood rot on the trim. But because the appraiser gave value to the shed that we should have just torn down, the we had to have the trim replaced. And the buyer paid for it because my seller said no. She's like, I'm not fixing that freaking shed. If anything, I will tear it down.
Well, and that's the thing too.
But
Like the buyers are able to be like, okay, well, and that's going back to the issue that we just had. We were like, listen, if it becomes one of those issues, like I'll come out, or the buyer's like, I can come out and sand this post and paint it, right? Because it's
Right.
not a huge issue. But if it is flagged and it comes up on that appraisal as subject to, and that's what will happen. They'll give you the valuation of the property, and then they say, yes, it's worth whatever 285,000, subject to XYZ being addressed, your
Exactly.
peeling paint, your, you know, water
Right.
issue being addressed, your shed being fixed for the trim.
Right. And their guidelines exist because they're protecting the lender and they're protecting the buyer. They
Yes.
want to make sure, like a lot of FHA buyers, if they're not doing it to get a better interest rate, because right now we're finding that that's better than conventional sometimes, which is
Mm-hmm.
a flip flop. Because when I bought my house, mine's FHA, it was actually a worse rate, but I needed the down payment assistance. But they want to make sure these buyers aren't financing a hunk of junk. Like they want to make sure you're not. I remember the stories. It was like the 1950s when people were selling land in Florida and the buyers would get there and it was a swamp. That's what I equate it to. Is like they want to make sure that this house is going to last, that you're not financing, like a bad car that's going to, all the wheels are going to fall off when you drive out of the parking lot. Like
Mm-hmm.
they want to make sure the house is safe and sound.
Yeah.
So it protects the buyer and the lender.
What are
But
some
what
of the biggest things that you see flagged? Because people walk in, they're like, oh my gosh, this outlet's crooked. This is not going to go FHA. Or, oh gosh, like the kitchen cabinets are original. Like that's not going to go FHA. And that's not at
That's not it.
all.
No.
That's not at
That's not it.
all what
The one
happens.
thing I often see is definitely the GFCI outlets.
Mm-hmm.
They test them. If they don't work, you got to replace them because that could burn a house down. That could blow out a whole electrical system. That's one I've really noticed is like, okay, GFCIs. And I've gotten a little tester now that I'm like, before we even list, I'm like, this doesn't work. You need to get because that's going to pop up on
On
any
any
home
inspection.
inspection
Yeah.
anyway. Fix the GFCIs. The other one that I've seen a big thing is wood rot because especially in the South, that could also like that moisture and wood rot
Mm-hmm.
could also it's going to lead to termites and that's going to cause more issues. Those are the two really big things that I've seen. What have you seen?
The wood rot is a big one around here, especially like if you have a one of those crawl spaces that is a little bit lower to the ground, so you have more wood exposed along towards the ground area. Because I mean, some of the wood siding, I'm just like, why can we not like keep this going? Anyways, wood rot, and actually, I get peeling paint
Do you?
almost on every single one of my FHAs that I've done is this is peeling, and it's because they're older windows, right? So it's trim around the windows, or
Right.
and I tell my clients this too. The chances of this paint being from pre 1978 are slim to none, right? Like the
Yeah, but there's still
chances,
a
there
chance.
is a chance, and that's why it's their responsibility to say, hey, this could be a hazard, right? And
Right.
to address that right now. And honestly, this is becoming an issue, not just FHA, but conventional as well, is roofs.
Yes, or with insurance.
Mm-hmm.
That's an insurance issue. My clients just got around it because the seller quoted us the wrong age, but when we had the roof inspect, so they already told the insurance or my buyer, sorry. And when we found out the real age, we did not update the insurance because we are getting a new roof anyway. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
update them after you put the new roof
After you
on
put the new
and
roof
let
on.
them know.
Because it makes a
Um,
huge difference on the price of your insurance, a huge price. And
yes.
it's crazy because they say that these shingles, are 25 to 30 years sometimes, and they're flagging roofs that are more than 10 years old right now.
Yep.
So,
Oh
which is
yeah.
insanity to me. It's you do have so much life left on that roof,
Right.
but you for FHA specifically, I think it's like 3 to 5 years left of life on most of the
Hmm.
major systems too. It's HVAC, it's all of those big things. They want to make sure that you're not
Yes.
coming into this property expecting to replace a roof in 6 months.
Right. And like the HVAC has to be, and like electrical and plumbing have to be functional.
Mm-hmm.
They will not, unless it's like the 203K, which is the rehab version, the window unit doesn't count as the HVAC. Sorry.
Mm-mm.
Like it, at a minimum, it has to be a mini split. Like it has to have heat. Not maybe not air conditioning in certain climates. Like I'm sure in New York, I bet air conditioning is not, but whatever
Required.
is installed has to be functional.
Speaking of
Um,
functional, I had a buyer that actually the seller ended up paying for the home inspection and the re-inspection because when we went out there and they knew it was FHA and I'd spoken to the agent 6 times about
I know
having the
exactly what you're gonna
utilities
say.
and the water turned on because it was vacant, right? The
Yep.
owner's not there. Of course, lots of people turn the utilities and the water off, so nothing bad happens while nobody's there. But they never
Right.
had those utilities turned on. So the inspector got there and was like, well, I can do this part and that.
Right.
But like, there's so much that they can't check with no water because you can't find leaks. You can't find any of that stuff. So the seller that my buyer was under contract on actually ended up paying for the whole inspection and
Good.
the re-inspection because we had to reschedule like a week and a half later for them to get all of the utilities squared away and
That's crazy.
turned on.
I
But
think the one that always surprises me is like outbuildings. Like the one that I had with the shed.
mm-hmm,
It couldn't be hazardous. And I was like, you picked the trim. Did you look at the inside of the shed?
right. Well, no, that's the
Because
thing.
like this is a walking tetanus shot.
We
But
had
no, it was
one that
just the
was
rotten trim.
one of the like the almost like carport material, like metal shed, with peeling paint
Yeah.
on it. And I mean, they have this stuff from the shed. They're like, no, it's like from '86 or whatever. But the appraiser flagged it for the peeling paint, and we had to go out and pressure wash all of the peeling paint off this metal and repaint it.
Crazy.
It
I mean, I
was
get it, but it's just like of the shed. The shed.
right.
But okay, so let's go over some quick seller and buyer prep tips.
Okay, we
So
kind of
if you
covered
guys
a
are
couple too. Turn your water
yeah,
on
and
your utilities.
right, make sure your utilities are on. Make sure anything hazardous is taken care of. Check your outlets, those things. Um, but there's like a quick advice to give your sellers, like a quick weekend checklist before the appraisal or even the inspection. Like scrape the paint, maybe add some handrails, even if it is those quick 2x4 handrails. Put them up. Um, Test your systems, make sure you don't have any leaks anywhere if you have the ability to, and like declutter, especially utility rooms. They really don't like when they can't get to things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because they can't see what's going on. So that's my tip is like and like do that mini inspection with for yourself, like for what you know, or maybe if you don't have that skill set, have a handyman come over real quick and be like, hey, you need to. These are the things or these are what I can do for you to make this better. Um,
But
that's for
honestly,
my sellers. That's what I tell them.
this doesn't have to be done the week before an inspection either. If you're listing a property, if you're a seller or an agent and you're
Exactly.
like, do this ahead of time. Okay, to work for FHA, these are 3 things that I see in this property that might come up on an FHA appraisal. To be proactive and be as ready as we can, because that's the most stress inducing part of being under contract is waiting for the inspection, right? Or the appraisal.
Right.
So go ahead and sand that flaking paint and put a
Right.
new cover on it, like just another
Even if
layer.
it's not matching paint,
Right.
scrape it and touch it up.
God,
Like,
please let it match a little bit though.
girl, I have a light bulb in my house that doesn't match right now, and I'm literally my Eric who helped me install it was like, yes, it does, and I'm like, I'm gonna send a picture to Brenda. I can tell you this is a
It
half shade
doesn't.
off. We got to fix it.
Yeah, it doesn't. I have a listing that the contractor put new bulbs and everything, and there's one light fixture. It's one of the old, like, it's not a boob light, but it is, and it's got 2 bulbs in it, and one is white and one is soft white. And I was like, those don't match. And he's like, yeah, they do. And I'll have to text you
No,
because one
I'm
side
gonna
of the
text you
light is
mine.
white
Yeah,
and one side of the light is orange. And I'm like,
mine, and it's
that
literally
doesn't.
like they're LEDs, so when you install them, you can pick what shade,
Mm-hmm.
and he one shade off. So he has to come back and do another one anyway. But I'm like, you're taking that down and fixing it. It's a half shade off, and
That's
it's gonna drive
hilarious.
me
Your
nuts.
light bulbs will not affect your FHA appraisal,
No,
but
light bulbs will not.
it will stop my
But it may
eyeballs from
draw
twitching.
attention, and it may draw attention to other things though. So
Mm-hmm.
like we have this is kind of more home inspection than FHA, but make sure all your light bulbs work. Because if I turn on a light fixture and only 2 out of the 3 bulbs work,
You know how many
or none of the
inspections
bulbs work,
I've
I'm going to
gotten that are
wonder, is
like,
there an electrical
yeah, they're
issue?
like, it could be an electrical issue. Probably it's just a light bulb, but they don't say that in the inspection, right? So what does your
Right.
buyer think? Immediately thinks that the house is about to burn down because
Yep.
there's
Oh,
something
the whole
wrong with
house
the
needs to
wiring.
be
Yeah.
rewired. No, stop.
Speaking of buyers,
Yeah, I'll let
understand
you
that
take the
these
buyers.
small fixes, they're not deal breakers, right? There are so many things to be worried about in the process of buying a house, but you don't get to panic unless I panic, right? If we're talking about some peeling paint that needs literally 12 square inches of sanding and paint, that is not something to run for the hills on. And chances are the sellers are going to be pretty reasonable, right? If it's on the appraisal that says we'll give you this value, it's subject to XYZ being completed. In my experience, most sellers are like, well, it's on the appraisal. We have to do it, right? And even if not, you have the ability to pay for those repairs, whether they be at
Yep.
closing or ahead of time. And you just, we can do concessions. Well, so FHA, there are some things like we
Right.
had one
A
with
roof
water
can't be.
intrusion.
A roof
Right.
has to be done before
hmm
closing.
We had one with water intrusion that we had to prove that it was fixed and they had to come back and reinspect it before the loan was cleared, right? So there are some things that have to be done and you can't take on after closing or pay for to be done after closing. FHA wants that information done, signed, sealed, delivered. But it's not scary, right? Whether you're FHA or conventional, there's going to be something that pops up on this home inspection that you're like,
Mm-hmm.
ugh. Most of the time, it's not as scary as it sounds. When you get your home inspection, it's 87 pages long or 140 pages long. That's my longest one, 140 pages.
I had one that was like 147 the other day, and I was like, what the
Oh,
is this?
right.
But it was literally, it was like, once I looked at it, I realized it was the synopsis of the things they were calling out to be fixed.
hmm
And then it was the full home
Okay.
inspection. And I was like, you scared the shit out of my clients. Thank you.
I had this is totally off topic, but I got the shortest home inspection of my career this year. It was 27 pages long.
See,
When
those make me nervous.
Oh
Like, did they not
my
look at everything?
gosh. No, well, so here's the thing. They have all of the information, all of the pictures in there, but none of it is like, here's why it's bad. Here's all the extra photos for every angle of this problem, right? And oh, we were just so excited. So excited
That's
on that
nice.
one. Okay. What about for agents?
Okay. So, yes, I would say for agents, I think the biggest thing here, and this goes for buyers and your sellers, you have to prepare them. You have to manage those expectations. Let them know what is going to be looked at. So, like when I have FHA buyers, I'm walking around a house going, okay, this might be a thing. This could be a thing. Or, hey, I don't see anything. I think we'll be fine. Um, but it's the same for sellers. Okay. If we want to open up our buyer pool to FHA, here's some things I think you should repair before we list. Or here's some, like, we didn't open it up, but we do have someone who would like to know if we would consider FHA. Here's what my red flags might be, or I think we'll be fine. Like, but you have to educate your buyer and your seller on what to expect and what might be flagged.
Right. Don't go in if you're getting an offer and be like, oh, well, this is FHA, so this is going to be a really hard sell. Because
Right.
your clients, your sellers are looking to you for information and guidance. They don't know, right? So if you're like, "Ugh, it's FHA," they're like, "Oh my god, it's FHA."
Right. Right. Yep. I think the other thing is you need to have a good vendor list. You need to know who your vendors are to have things done quickly and correctly at decent prices. Like I knew I didn't have I called my contractor for the wood trim and he was like, Alyssa. And I was like, I know. I know. He's like, he was already out there fixing a couple of things from the inspection. He's like, I can do it. But then my seller said, I'm not paying for it. Like he can put it in the invoice and the buyer can pay that portion. So the buyer just brought in a handyman. Like it didn't need to be a licensed contractor.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes like you do just need the handyman. Like maybe your clients can't paint or they're out of town on vacation. You need to get someone out there. Or you know what? Maybe you need to go put on not your Sunday best, grab a gallon of paint
And
and
do
swing
it
a
yourself.
paintbrush around for a little while. Like
Yeah.
you just need to be prepared with the resources to get things done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, let's go over some myths versus reality. This is the fun part, and then I think we can wrap this one up.
Okay. Yeah, I think we've hit a lot of the highlights of
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Okay. FHA is stricter and harder to work with than conventional.
No, I've actually had a conventional come back where I don't know how the lender got a hold of the termite report. where it showed no active, but previous termite treatments. So the conventional lender required the seller to have a termite treatment done. And I was like, the
Yeah.
fuck?
Yeah, I
Wait,
had a
what?
conventional one too that was like insane. Like they had to do waterproofing around the house, and it was a layer. It wasn't required for the conventional financing, but that lender had an overlay, right? That specific lender was like, "Oh
Right.
no, we need this." And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." We took the conventional because we knew that this was going to be a problem for FHA, right?
Yep.
Oh well. Another myth is the appraiser will fail the home.
I love when people say, my house is going to fail.
Yeah.
There's no pass fail.
No.
That's not how this works. Y'all put the Scantron down. It's not a pass fail situation.
That's so funny. The Scantron. It's true though. Like everything starts a conversation. We hope that there's not any crazy things in this appraisal or in the inspection, but when there is, it's not a, oh God, nobody's ever going to buy your house now. That's just not how that works.
Right.
Um,
Um,
Go ahead.
that or like sellers should never accept FHA.
I
Why?
have I have one FHA transaction that I remember that was a nightmare, and it was not because it was FHA. It was
Right.
because of the lender and buyer, really, because I had the seller, but it was not an FHA problem. It was a communication issue with lots of people. It had nothing to do with the type of financing.
Yeah.
So
I was,
many first time home buyers use this program and close smoothly. It doesn't take any longer. That's another one. Like, oh, FHA takes forever to close. My most recent one I closed in 26 days.
yeah. And I honestly, like, I've had deals that were cash or conventional that were so much worse. And I've never had a nightmare FHA. I've had literally like, I think the only one I can think of is the wood trim. Like, and that was it. And it was an easy, the buyer paid the handyman like $500 to come out, take the trim off, put new trim up and paint it. I've never had. But I also think that that's part of our expertise as agents is we need to know what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't look for the shed because who puts value on a tin
I
can
know.
from the
How much did
50s?
they give it?
I don't even remember, but because that was my
$250.
pushback. I was like, I asked the lender, did they give the shed value? Because if they didn't, they
Then
can't
it
make
doesn't
us
count.
fix it. And
Yep.
she was like, yeah, they did. And I was like, what? Like, no. So,
That's another super
but
good
yeah,
point too. And this is for another episode. I think we covered it once before. Like if you have issues with appraisal, look and see if there's value attached to that problem because
look
if
and see if they appraised the right house. I
oh,
had that
yeah,
happen
that's a
once.
whole nother. Maybe that can be on our spooky stories coming up
Right?
because we're coming
Right?
close to 2 years of this. Isn't that crazy?
Yes, we need to record that because we are mid-September right now. So we need to
Yeah.
record that in like 2 weeks.
But to wrap up, FHA again, they're looking for the three S's. They're looking for safe, sound, and secure for their clients. It is a government backed loan. It is not a specific lender. It is not a specific appraiser. None of that. It is a federally backed loan. And the best thing to do for an FHA is to, as a listing agent, have that conversation with your seller up front. This is another type of financing that we see a lot in this area. I would do XYZ before we hit the market just so we can cross those off the list, right? As a buyer's agent, you should be touring houses with your client and say, hey, I see this. I see this. Keep this in mind. This might be a problem. And again, communication, we always circle back to communication. There's never a problem if they know, right? If you're sharing the
Right.
information with them along the way, they know to expect it. Whereas if you just blindly put in an offer and then it comes back with, the peeling paint, the wood rot, and they're like, oh wow, this is so much, and you're like, well, I mean, I kind of expected, but now they have a bad taste in their mouth. So
Right.
to accept the FHA offer, you guys.
Yeah. I mean, if the house is solid and you have no concerns, go take that FHA offer. And if you don't have one already, and maybe you just said this, but create a checklist. Like, I think that's a great thing to do. And if you don't have one, there's probably a template out there somewhere on Etsy, but make sure you're prepared. But no, there's no reason to not take one unless the house really isn't going to pass. And then maybe we should be cash only anyway. But
Right, and then stand your ground. Exactly. Like if you are like,
right.
there is no way, there's no
Yeah.
way, then don't put your seller in that position. Don't put your buyer in that position to risk their due diligence or their earnest money or whatever that case may be. But yeah, ultimately, it's just another loan product. That's ultimately what it is.
Yep. Yep. All right. On that note, y'all, we will see you next week.
Bye, guys. We just finished another episode of Contracts and Chaos, but believe me, the chaos does not stop here. So check out the show notes for our email address and where to follow us on socials, and we will see you next week.